If you enjoy listening to inspirational stories from people just like us, facing the fear and doing it anyway, then you're in the right place. My name is Claire Hill, and this is the No Rest for the Vivid podcast. Hello, welcome to episode 18. Thanks for joining us. Very grateful for everyone that listens. If you've got any ideas of anybody that would like to come on, let me know. You can send me a DM on Instagram or send me an email. I had some great feedback from my best friends over the weekend, the girls that I dedicated last week's episode to, and they gave me such good feedback and I absolutely love it. So I've got some good ideas coming. I'm not going to talk for very long because this week's episode is really good. It's from Alice Dartnell talking all about energy management. But before I introduce the wonderful Alice, I wanted to remind you that spaces for my master lesson, Make More Income Using Warrior Energy with the Vivid Formula, are open, and it's 3 sessions starting on Tuesday the 8th of February. Session 1 is all about creating your own warrior energy. Session 2 is all about how to strategize and plan effectively for your business. And session 3 is increasing your prices or making sure your pricing is correct and money mindset. I'm so excited, and everybody that books their space on the master lesson gets lifetime access to the Vivid Club. Also, I've opened 4 spots to my one-to-one coaching program, which I'm so freaking excited about. One of my new clients, even just after a week of working with me, her confidence is just, she's on fire. I'm so proud of her. And I coached her through increasing her prices. And then the next day, somebody bought her product at the increased price. I'm just so proud of her. If you're interested in working with me one-to-one, there is a link in the show notes for to take you to the application process. I'm so excited for those people I am going to be working with, because I know that this way works. I know that the Vivid Formula works. I know that having warrior energy and creating it for yourself makes you more money. I just believe it, and I know it. The end. Anyway, please enjoy this wonderful episode with Alice. All of her info are in the show notes. Go and follow her. Take in every word. She's a genius. Hello, Alice.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to the No Rest for the Vivid podcast.
For having me. I'm very excited.
I'm good. I'm glad. I wanted you on because I think you're very vivid. You're a very vivid individual. When I met you, obviously, I've actually met you in real life. A lot of the people I have on here are my mates that I've never met in real life, but I actually have met you.
We've actually hugged.
Yeah. So for those of people that don't know who you are, can you tell everyone what's your name, where do you come from, what do you do, and just your escalator plus a bit more introduction. Not escalator. What is it? Lift. Elevator. That's it. Going up the stairs.
Bit slower. So my name is Alice Dartnell. I'm a life success coach, and I specialise in time management, which sounds a little bit geeky, but I generally teach and advocate it from slightly different angles. So I actually teach that time management isn't about time, it's actually about us. So the best way to master our time management is actually through our mindset and through our energy management, because often when I'm meeting clients or people that are struggling with their time management, something's manifested as a classic time management issue, but when you dig beneath the surface, it's usually mindset and energy management. So yeah, in my business I work with individuals, I also work with organizations, doing workshop training, talks. I'm also the host and the founder of Success Box, which is a personal development book club, because I am big on my personal development, and I run different programs and courses and things like that as well.
Oh my God, I didn't know about Success Box. What do you do in Success Box? That sounds right up my street.
Success Box is your classic classic book club, but we only cover personal development books. And there's a range of themes that we do. So it isn't just like one theme like business. It will be maybe spiritual or time or self-love. Like there's so many different topics that we'll cover. But I created it because I love my personal development books, always have. And I kind of found I have rushed through them because I was like, I've got to stay on track for reading 2 to 3 books a month. And I'd rush through it and go, oh, that was great, pop it back on my shelf and then do nothing with it. or I would just get halfway through it and just lose momentum. And I just thought, I can't be the only person doing that. So I started this personal development book club, and it's exactly for people like that. So it's our community to kind of inspire, help each other back through ideas. And sometimes you read a book, you're like, oh my God, this is so great. These ideas are so amazing. I want to share it with people. But unless someone else has read the book, where's your community? So yeah, that's what Success Box is all about.
Alice, this sounds like literally, how do I get involved? Because I literally always am constantly reading those kinds of books, and I sit there with my husband like, you never guess what we should do, and I'm like, I do fold down the pages or highlight them, and then I'm like, I'm going to come back to that, but I don't always, but it's such a good idea.
I'll send you the link, and then obviously if you want to share it in your show notes or anything like that, but it's just my website, alicedartnell.com/success-box, if anyone wants to check it out. But yeah.
Oh, I love that. What's your favorite self-development book that you love the most?
Ask me this, and it is so hard to choose because I've literally read hundreds, but I think the one that changed my life, and that is a big statement, was The Secret, because I first read that when I was at the depths of my depression, my eating disorder, and I had a real victim mindset. Like, it was me, blame everyone. I wouldn't be in this situation if I didn't have my mum as my parent, or I wasn't born to this town. And it was a real victim mentality. And when I read The Secret, I realised that I was not necessarily I'm to blame, but it just made me realise I didn't have to sit here being a victim, and I could take some control and choose my destiny and kind of bring the things that I wanted to bring into my life. So yeah, I'm not necessarily saying that is the best personal development book in the world, because there's so many, but for me that was an absolute game changer when I read that. That was kind of like a harsh truth to be like, ooh, shit, I got myself into this, I can get myself out of it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you can take control. I love reframing things. So if something is not working, like I recorded the podcast that went out today's twice, and it all went wrong, and I was like, instead of getting frustrated, it's okay, I'm going to take control, and I'm learning lessons. It's all good, I'm learning every step of the way. I love that. I've never read The Secret because I feel like I've read so many other books that pull ideas from, but maybe I should read that one. So how did you get into this line of business?
Okay, so yeah, I don't know why. Everyone always asks me why, and I can't quite pinpoint it. But ever since I was probably in my teens, I always knew that I would have my own business. I did really well at school, but I also was labelled a bit of a troublemaker. And I now I look back on that journey, I think it's because I didn't know I was dyslexic. So I did struggle with things like reading and writing. So I'd be that irritating kid that got the right answer, but had no idea how I got to the right answer. So I, like in maths, where you get points for your marking, you're working out. Yeah, I never got points for that because I was like, I don't know, I did it. Yeah. So I was a straight A student, but just at the same time really struggled with school. And I've always had this little feeling that I don't quite fit in, and I knew that I could be successful, and I had really had that desire. I think my dad drilled that in from quite early on, coming from very stereotypical working class town. He was like, if you want something, you can go for it. You don't have to stay here. Work hard, get some good grades, and the world's your oyster. Now, I don't necessarily agree that you need good grades to open up doors for you, but I'm 35 now, so back in the day, that's what we believed, right? So but I'm really grateful to my dad to be like, what do you want to do? Do anything. And I was like, I want to have my own business. And I don't know if that was just because I was rebellious and hated teachers, and I was like, I'm going to be the boss. It could have just been that. But anyway, I was dead set on having my own business. So unfortunately, between 15 and about sort of mid-20s, I really struggled with my mental health, depression, I was quite suicidal, self-harm, stuff like that. And I really, even then, I didn't want people to experience what I was experiencing, because I was literally rock bottom. I didn't want to live. And when I started to recover, I was like, I need to do something with that. And I wasn't quite sure. And you instantly think maybe medicine or counselling or nurse. And I thought, right, I really want to help people, but I don't want to do that. So I kind of just parked it for a little bit. And then my grand scheme anyway was to be in corporate for kind of 10 years, work my way up to director level, and then start a business. Because again, a bit backward thinking, but I believed back in my early 20s that I needed good grades, I needed to reach a certain director, like managerial level, and then I'd be taken seriously, and then I could start a business. But it didn't work out that way. It didn't work out like that anyway. So, you know, great plans and all. So it was 2016. So I'm about 30 now. Yeah. So 2016. My husband at the time was in the military, so he was doing his military thing all over the world, and I had moved in with my nan. And this sounds really awful because I love my nan to bits, she's a ledge, and I just wanted a little weekend to myself. So I totally random, I was on Facebook, this advert pops up for coaching, and I was like, oh, that sounds quite interesting, I'm into personal development. So I went on this 2-day coaching training, and it was literally like a light bulb had gone on and the penny had dropped, and I was like, and I remember coming home to my nan, and my dad actually was in England at the time as well, and I was so excited, and I was like, oh my god, I found my calling, I'm going to be a coach. And they were both like, oh my god, that's so exciting, but what is that?
Yeah,
you know, coaching's like all quite new.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had obviously my full-time job, was doing the coaching on the side, like getting my practice hours in and all that. And in 2018 I ceremoniously lost my job overnight, and I got sacked for something that wasn't my fault. I don't think I'm technically meant to be sharing that because I signed an NDA. But anyway, I got sacked, and then I was like, right, what do I do? Because the plan was to become a director. So I went for some interviews for the next role, and everyone was like, why don't you just start your business? Now, unfortunately, I listened to everyone that doesn't have a business and doesn't realise how difficult it is to start a business. Yeah, and I remember coming back from Sri Lanka being like, I'm going to start my business. So I put all the business plans in place, built a website, all that jazz. And then unfortunately, 15 years of not looking after my energy, I burnt out in the summer of 2019, just as I literally registered my business. So I had to make a really difficult decision. Like, do I plow on with the business, or do I actually have to take some time to recover? So obviously I had to prioritise my health. I took time to recover. I just did a bit of contracting here and there just to kind of pay the bills. But that for me was so profound, because when I came to like attempt number 2 to start the business in January 2020, I knew my niche was going to be time management, because that's what I've always been obsessed with. But that's when I was like, oh, hang on a minute. I was so good at time management and I burnt out. Like something went wrong there. And that's why I niched my time management into energy management, because I suddenly realized my mindset was all wrong, my energy was not being looked after. So it didn't matter how well I planned and prioritized for how bloody productive I was, it didn't matter because I still burnt out. So yeah, a bit of a long-winded journey to get to where I am today, and a couple of false starts, but yeah, that's how I kind of got to where I am right now with the business.
I absolutely adore this term energy management, because part of what I sort of speak to through Clare Hill coaching is all about having warrior energy. So when you were saying, when we went to this event, you know, I manage energy, I was like, oh my goodness, because my idea, and I don't know how you feel about this, but my idea of having energy is if you've got the right like, I want to say volume of energy, that's not the right, but the right tone of energy, not too manic, not too much, but just enough, really productive, you feel powerful, you can actually gain time back, and it's less risky to burn yourself out because your energy is being used in the right way. But what do you take? What's your like? Yeah, is that a sort of like this on the right lines?
Oh my god, absolutely. Because the problem is, like, when we think of time in the traditional sense, what I would call clock management, the problem is we're not really looking at the quality of the task. We're not seeing if there's return of investment. We're not even seeing if it's the right task. And there's that saying that I always quote, and I'm paraphrasing, but there's no point climbing the ladder if it's up the wrong wall. And you could be the most productive person, but if you're not doing the right things and the right tasks, does it matter? Or actually, you're going to burn yourself out because you're trying to do too much. Which we forget to look at the quality of the task and the relevance of it. And actually, yeah, it's some tasks do bring you back a good return of investment on your time and your energy if you're picking the right things. Like I always talk about things like meditation, sleep, exercise. Oh my god, the amount of people that tell me that I don't have time to go to the gym, don't have time to do this, and I'm like, yeah, but you don't realize that if you invest 15 minutes into that, you'll get like 2 hours back.
Absolutely, absolutely. I always say this about, I do morning pages every day. It's from Julia Cameron's sort of I've forgotten the book. On my brain is, I keep forgetting things today. The Book of Art or something like that. Anyway, the morning pages for me, writing 3 A4 sides every single day. The amount of energy I get from that, because I am not carrying around all of these random thoughts that aren't going to impact, like positively impact my day. I get rid of them, or I use that time to plan for the day, or I use that time to have ideas for the business, or think of nice dinners to cook, like anything random. But the amount of energy it gives me is amazing. It's worth putting in that half an hour every day.
Absolutely, yeah, and I totally agree with that. And everyone's going to be different, so that might not work for somebody else. You've got to find out what works for you. But yeah, I'm really big on investing that kind of thing. Yeah, into yourself, especially early in the morning as well.
So when you get a new, like somebody wants to work with you, and how do people find you? Is it because they feel burnt out, or they just can't manage their time properly, or so what things are they asking or needing help with when they first meet you?
Yeah, I generally find that my clients kind of fall into two categories. The majority of my clients are business owners. I never set out that way, but I guess because business owners are generally very busy trying to do everything themselves, and will stereotypically always put themselves last. I think that's why I've attracted quite a lot of business owners. But they generally fall into two categories of like, I'm doing good, I'm doing well, I'm successful, but I know I can level up. And the way to do that is, I can't get more time in the day, there's 24 hours and that's it. But if I look at my energy and how I'm using that and my mindset, then I can take things to the next level. Or it will be people that are just feeling like, oh my God, there is so much to do, I'm getting on the edge of overwhelm, and they're probably not at the stage of burnout because they've come to me, but they can see it down the road. So it's like, prevention is better than cure. Let's put some strategies and tools and techniques in place to prevent that. So that's generally kind of, I would say, where my two clients fall into.
And so do you have like a specific like method that you teach people of how to organize their day, or is it really individualized?
Really, really individual. So I don't have like a set program when I work with one-to-one clients, because I think we're so unique and individual. But I'll have some frameworks that I would use. For example, I'm big on planning, so I will always advocate to my clients that they plan, but everyone's individual. So for example, some people like to use paper, some people like to use the Outlook, some people are single, so their calendar is just theirs. Other people have got families, so they've got to do a joint calendar. So you've really got to make sure it's tailored to the client. But I always have, like, I suppose, set frameworks, tools that I would advocate using, things like planning to your energy, morning routines, stuff like that. I would advocate certain things that everybody does, but you just got to tailor it to make it work for you.
Would you say, for your biggest tip so somebody is listening to this and they might be a mum with a small business, for example. Like me, I'm a mum with a small business, and what would be like the biggest thing that I feel overwhelmed? I feel like I've got too much going on in my day. I feel pressure from everybody to be performing at the highest level I can, and my head is just going to blow. I don't actually feel like that right now, by the way, caveat to everybody who's going to listen to it, but yeah, there are people that feel like that though, aren't there? So what would be the biggest tip, like your first go-to thing that you would recommend them do?
Okay, and also, just because you don't feel like that right now, it doesn't mean that doesn't come. Like, I'm not immune to overwhelm. Like, just because I know this stuff and I teach it every day, doesn't mean that I'm not immune to it. Like, there's definitely points at a time where it does become a bit too much and you do feel overwhelmed. So this tip is going to help you if you're currently in that situation permanently, or you've just fallen into it on that particular day. But my biggest thing around this is brain dump and plan. Because when people hold stuff in their head, oh my God, it is so consuming. And our brain anyway is a bit of a gas guzzler. Like, people don't realize the brain's only 5% of your body weight, but uses 20% of your like fuel intake. Like, it is a gas guzzler. So let's not keep stuff in our head. And I always say that the brain is for thinking, not for remembering. So whatever's consuming you, get it out. And if you can get it out on paper, perfect. And then attached to that is planning. And I always bang on about how important planning is. But for me, it's so important because we have a tendency to take on too much. And I know I'm guilty of that. I burnt out. We really have a tendency for, eyes bigger than the belly, biting off more than we can chew. And when you plan, you're being really realistic with yourself of, I've got 24 hours in a day, this amount of energy, and this amount of stuff that I'm trying to do. If you are physically trying to do too much, and it's like putting a round, what's the saying, putting a square peg in a round hole, like it's not going to fit. And the amount of times I'll look at a client's kind of planner or things that are overwhelming them, and I'm like, are you really going to fit all that in that one day or in that one week? Like, actually, I've had to pull a client up for this the other day because she's, very stereotypical January goal, want to get fit, want to get healthy, lose a few pounds, etc. And she wants to exercise, certain times a week. And when she showed me it, she had, I think it was like Wednesday, and it was like rammed, like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. It was rammed, picking up the kids, doing this meeting, prepping for this. And then at the bottom of it was like things to do, exercise, go to gym. And I was like, where on earth are you going to magic that hour up? And she was like, oh, I hadn't actually thought about that. And I was like, yeah, exactly. So now you're adding to your overwhelming pressure because you're physically trying to do 25 hours worth of stuff in 24 hours and it doesn't work. So we have to be really honest with ourselves. And then I think when we plan, that spills onto a whole load of other techniques that we can use, like saying no or pushing stuff back or prioritizing. So, sometimes we go straight into things like that, but actually no, just break it down, brain dump, plan it in, and then just be a little bit honest with yourself.
I'm so glad of saying no. You said that because I think one of my sort of goals or habits that I want to do for 2022 is, though I'm good at it, but protect my energy. I believe that an individual's energy is the most important thing in their life, like even more than their children or anything, because if you don't have the energy for yourself, then how have you got the energy to be the person that you want to be? So I'm all about protecting my energy this year. So, and that includes, if I don't want to go to an event because I don't think I'm going to get enough return on the energy that I'm going to get. And that's not causing offense. That's just because you've got to sort of take it in, take consideration that your energy is more important than trying to please other people, isn't it? It's sort of like that protecting it is just so alien to people. So I'm starting to practice it now, but it's just so weird to think of it. But I know that I'm going to get, by the end of this year, I would have achieved more than I'd hoped to and still have energy left to do the fun things that I want to do.
So what's the point of achieving all your goals if you feel like absolute crap at the end of it and you're feeling like, oh, and it's like, well, okay, you might have achieved X, Y, and Z, but if you're not happy as well, then what it's too big a price to pay.
Absolutely, yeah. But that's the thing, isn't it? It's that mindset of we've grown up in a world where it's selfish to think of yourself first, but it's like essential. I have to think about my energy before I think about my son's energy. And for some listeners, you might be thinking, oh, she's not a very good mum. Makes me the best mum I could have ever dreamed of, because I am there, I'm present when I'm with him, I'm not on my phone, I can think up weird games and songs to do with him, like the absolute best version of myself as a mum. And if I didn't protect my energy and think, actually, I need to go to bed tonight and just write or read or give him the iPad for 5 minutes so that I can read or do some writing for 5 minutes, and I'm the best mum. It's sort of, but people just think that you're selfish. That's for anybody though, isn't it? Anybody that is in your life, trying to put yourself first, people think you're self-absorbed or selfish or something like that.
No, I always believe in quality, not quantity, and I always advocate that you can't pour from an empty cup. So you have to give to yourself first.
Yeah, definitely. What's your daily? I've just done lives this week on Claire Hill Coaching about like my morning routine and how that can increase your energy, your warrior energy. That's what I use. But what's your morning routine or your habits during the day to help you replenish your energy?
Yeah, no, I'm so big on the morning thing, which is hilarious because I'm really not a morning person. So I think people assume because I bang on about a morning ritual all the time that they think that I just like, the alarm goes off at 5 and I'm like, morning, like that is so not me. And I used to be terrible with the snooze. And when I worked in corporate, I thought I was being great with my time management because I would leave the alarm to the very last minute. So I'd give myself about 20 bloody minutes to get ready. So you can imagine I'm running around this house share, like, get out of the bathroom, like stressing, trying to eat my porridge on the Northern Line whilst trying to read at the same time a personal development book because, I've got to maximise my time. And it just, I'm just getting to work grumpy and stressed. Yeah. And it's like, that hasn't saved me any time at all. So when I started to kind of get a bit, hang on a minute, this is not working. I'm just like rocking up to work stressed every day. So bit by bit, I started implementing a few things in the morning just to kind of like take the edge off the stress. So first of all, it was like a 2-minute yoga, and then I discovered journaling, so I did a little bit of that in. So now I feel, not that I perfected my morning ritual because I think it has to change depending on the situation you're in. So I've just got back from Cambodia where I was with my parents. Obviously my ritual changed a little bit to what it is when I live on my own, but for me generally it's every day starting off with warm lemon water. Just good to like get yourself hydrated, just get your digestive system going. I always do a meditation, even if you've only got a minute. That's better than nothing. It doesn't have to be this elaborate 20-minute thing. Just a couple of minutes will do. I will journal if I can, but if not, I will just think about it. And I will journal on what do I need for today? Because every day is different. If you've got a jam-packed day or client meeting, what you need for today might be a bit different to if you're doing loads of admin or seeing someone. So I really try to tailor it and think, okay, well, what do I need today? And I think that's a really powerful question because sometimes it's not what you expect. It's like, actually, do you know what? I need an early night, or I need to call my best friend for a whinge, or it could be so many things, but just really honouring what do I need for the day. I would, in an ideal world as well, I try to do a little bit of exercise in the morning. So that might be with my PT or just a bit of yoga in the living room on my own, and just always try and start my day with a healthy breakfast. So usually for me it would be like porridge or eggs, and if possible, if I can do something kind of for myself before the day begins as well, that always makes me feel like I'm winning. So I'm learning Japanese and Spanish at the moment, so it could be something like that, maybe just listening to a 10-minute YouTube Japanese thing, whilst I'm making my breakfast, because then I feel like I've already like accomplished something for the day, and it just makes me feel like really good about myself. And I always review my day as well before the day begins, just to make sure that I'm really prepared for what the day's going to bring me, and maybe even just a quick visualization to kind of visualize that meeting going well, or that client walking away happy from the session, or me smashing my workout with my PT, whatever it might be. Just kind of really quick visualization of how I want my day to go.
Yeah, that's good. And how long does that all take you?
So it depends, if I, at the moment, I'm not going to lie, I'm absolutely shattered. I did a 36-hour journey from Cambodia a couple of days ago. Yeah. So my mornings are a little bit slow at the moment. So I'm just taking my time to just kind of warm myself up, because I'm not a morning person and it does take me ages to wake up, which is why I have to put this ritual in place. But then other days, if I'm in a bit of a rush, or I've got lots on and I don't feel like I can't do a full morning, it might just be a 2-minute meditation, a 2-minute visualization, a 2-minute journal, and breakfast might just be that. So I'm really big on calling it a morning ritual, actually, for that reason, because I think when we say routine, it makes us feel like it's got to be the same thing at the same time for the same duration every day. And a lot of people get stuck on that then, because then if something changes or they don't have time, they sink into that all or nothing mindset of like, well, I can't do the 4-hour routine, I just won't do any of it. Whereas actually it could just be 2 minutes whilst you're brushing your teeth, visualizing a great day. That's enough. Yeah,
I have like a pick and mix routine ritual, same thing. So on a good day I can manage to do all of it, but if I another day that I just do one, I'm like, well it's all right. I think it's not putting the extra like bashing yourself if you've not met an expectation that you set yourself. because then that's just going to make you feel crappy anyway. But yeah,
exactly,
so you're learning Spanish because you're moving to Spain, aren't you?
I am, yes.
Valencia. So, oh, amazing. What made you want to move to Spain? I mean, obviously, well, I mean, there's quite a few reasons why you'd want to move to Spain, but
there's a sangria. So I've always had, I suppose, like quite a lot of British people have always had a bit of a love affair with Spain. Just when you're younger, just growing up, going on holidays there, and so just love the food, love the culture, love the weather. If anyone knows what I look like, I look quite Spanish anyway. So people always assume like Latino or Spanish or Mexican. So I always get people talking to me in Spanish. So I've always been like, I really should learn Spanish one day. And then pre-COVID, my plan was to take a year out and go traveling around South America. And everyone said, well, if you do, it'd be great to go to Spanish. The only country I've done so far is Peru, and my very, very terrible Spanish did manage to get me around Peru. And I just thought, God, it'd be really cool to be able to speak the language properly and just really get stuck in. Obviously, that hasn't happened yet because of COVID. But long story short, when my husband left me in 2021, I was like, shit. And that was not my choice, and I did not see it coming. And this might sound a bit weird, like we were married for 7 years and together for 10, and I genuinely, hand on heart, did not see it coming. And I was not laughed, but I always thought it was ridiculous when women or men said, I had no idea that they were unhappy or they were going to leave me, because I'd be like, how could you not tell? And then now it's happened to me, I'm like, oh God, you really can't tell. So it obviously absolutely shook my world. And it was really like, one day I was happily married and the next day I'm not, and I was like, what am I doing? And I can't control that. I can't do anything about him, his decision to leave me, the fact that I'm single. I can't do anything about that. And I thought, well, what do I do going forward then? Because that's the only thing that I have control of. And do I sit and wallow in this like failure of marriage and pit of doom and like how shit I feel about myself, or do I go do something that scares me but also bloody excites me? And I've got to get out my marital home anyway. And I thought, well, if I just move, I live in Southwest London at the moment, I just thought, if I move to somewhere else in Southwest London, one, that's not challenging me, two, that's not pushing me out my comfort zone, and it's not really that exciting. So I thought, what would actually like light me up? And it just happened I've got a friend who's taken a sabbatical from work for 9 months and gone to Spain to learn Spanish. And I remember so clearly, it was Father's Day. My dad was over from Cambodia. And I was like, Dad, like my mate Sophie's going to Spain and doing this. And I was like, I think I want to do it. And my dad was like, yeah, why don't you? And I was like, yeah, why not? Just nothing's stopping me except me. And I've always wanted to live in Spain. I always wanted to learn Spanish, and I just thought, if I don't do it now, when I've got no house, no husband, no tires, I'm never going to bloody do it. So I just go for it, girl.
I'm so excited for you. I always have that from my in-laws. My in-laws, when we met, I don't know if you remember, I was telling you that my brother-in-law lives in Japan, lives in Kyoto, and he's moved out there, and he's got his wonderful wife Yuko, and they've had a little girl Lucy, and it literally all happened in a year. It was all very wonderful. And my in-laws, they, like, my husband grew up in Nigeria because my father-in-law worked out there. They've lived in the Ivory Coast, Morocco, Ghana, all over the place. And they're like, so you and Dan ever gonna move anywhere? And we're like, nah. But it's like that. I wish I had that one, I suppose, because I think it would be so exciting when I see it. I'm like, oh yeah. But yeah, they've always just lived all over the place, and they've never been scared about it. They're just like, oh yeah, we're just going to go and live in the Ivory Coast, all right. It's just like, and that's the thing, like, so maybe it's a generational thing, I don't know, because your dad was like, yeah, why don't you? Maybe when I think as well, like there's this, and you were talking about the corporate world, you sort of have this hidden expectation that the safer life is in a corporate world or working in the public sector, have a proper job. And that's probably actually a hangover, me wanting to stay in Kent, but it's that thing of like, well, why not? why not? And then you say that and you're doing that, but that sort of embracing that fear, the you know, how much you're going to grow by doing that and how much your business is going to potentially grow by doing that is massive.
When you say that, because my mum is Japanese and my dad's English, but they live in Cambodia. So my mum has not lived in her home country for God knows how many years.
Yeah.
So maybe it was that, you know, maybe the fact that they just up sticks and left like the country and never came home, that they're like, oh, I'm going to Spain, whatever, it's only down the road. So yeah, maybe it's kind of that kind of thing. But yeah, I remember saying to somebody that I was moving to Spain, and so many people turn around and go, oh, so who do you know out in Spain? And I'm like, oh, I don't actually know anyone. And they're like, oh, so you speak the language? And I'm like, no, I've been rolled into language. I think it wasn't until I spoke to other people that were like, oh, I was like, oh God, what have I taken on? I was like, oh, this might sound really weird, but because of what I've just gone through in my personal life with the divorce, I need to do something that is scary to push me out my comfort zone to kind of prove that I can. Yeah. So somebody actually said to me, I mean, Alice, you know, we've just gone through a pandemic and a divorce. Don't you think that's enough of a comfort zone pusher? And I was like, yeah, but that wasn't my choice. I wanted to do something that pushes me out my comfort zone that I'm in charge of. So I don't know if that sounds a bit weird and warped.
No, but, do you know, it makes perfect sense, because you want to be better than your circumstances. And the circumstances, I actually spoke about this in my live the other day, because I push myself out of my comfort zone all the time to, I mean, I don't move to Spain, but I do other stuff, but push myself out of my comfort zone, because the drive to be better than my circumstances coming from my background is greater than the fear of what could go wrong. And I think that is exactly what you're describing. You know, it's not been in your control the last year, but look what you are going to make the next year. It's going to be like amazing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, lovely.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely. I think you're such a ledge, and I've literally only met you once. I've got a bit of a crush on you. But no, thank you so much for coming on. I ask everybody who comes on the same question: what would you tell yourself 10 years ago that you know now that you wish you knew then?
I mean, apart from stop being a dick,
I tell myself that as well. Stop drinking pints of lager.
Watch your liver.
Yes.
Oh my God, 25-year-old, there's so much like I would love to say to 25-year-old Alice. Just for context, I was just coming out of my depression and my eating disorder. So I had a really severe eating disorder for a decade, and I was 24 pushing 25, where I just had this mental breakdown one day, and I don't know what instigated it, but I came down the stairs and literally cried and told my parents everything, and basically told them that I had this eating disorder for 10 years, and they were like, what? And so I was very much at the start of what I call my recovery journey, where I was just absorbing personal development book after personal development book. I think on the outside, people looking in, I probably looked successful. I was engaged, about to get married. I had a really good corporate job. I'd traveled the world. I'd got a really good degree at a really good university. Tick, 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 you know, all that kind of stuff. But if I could go back to her, and I would just, my advice would be, stop being a bloody perfectionist and enjoy the journey. Because I was so caught up with when I have this, then I'll be happy. And I know from my eating disorder that that's not true, because my weight was getting lower and lower, because it was like, well, when I'm 7.5 stone, then I'll be happy. And then I get there and I wasn't. It was like, okay, well, maybe it needs to be 7.25 and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, to really work on that mindset, like take it away from the perfectionist mindset into the growth mindset, and just enjoy the bloody journey, not just the destination. Because 10 years on, I have had so many ups and downs and wibbles and wobbles, but you know, I still enjoyed it. So yeah, that would be mine.
You are really inspirational, babe. Where can people find you?
So yeah, feel free to, I'm mainly hanging out on Instagram, so that's kind of like my main place for people to connect to me. So very simple, just my name, Alice_Dartnell. I am on LinkedIn as well, but I generally don't hang out on there as much, whereas I'm on Instagram every day. So feel free to drop me a DM or a question or anything like that. And if anyone wants to find out more about what I do, obviously head to my website, alicedartnell.com. And if anyone wants to sign up to the newsletter, that comes out every Friday morning as well, with my insights and tips and videos and stuff like that. So if anyone wants more content from me for free, they're more than welcome to.
Amazing. I'll put all of those links in the show notes and probably sign up to everything. No, amazing. I was just thinking about your perfectionist thing. I read a line in a book, in one of those Wallace Wattles ones, that just said, everything is perfect right now, it's just not complete. And it's like, you know, I've just had a really weird noise just happen, and I thought there was a fox on the roof. I've just panicked, but it's my printer. Sorry, everybody. I was just like, what the hell is that? Because just before I started recording with you, there's a pigeon up on my skylight, and I was like, it's going to shit all over that window and I can't clean it. So I've just panicked myself, but it's my printer. So everybody, there's my printer, just wanting to get involved. But yeah, anyway, thank you so much for coming on. You've been an absolute dream. Oh no, you're more than welcome. Thanks, Alice. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the No Rest for the Vivid podcast, written, produced and hosted by Claire Hill, and music has been composed by my brother, Phil Vidler.